2015 marks the 800th anniversary of the sealing of Magna Carta by King John. For the first time, the rule of law was given precedence over the rule of the monarch. The foundations were laid for liberty and human rights. England and Great Britain were on the road to democracy.
Worcestershire holds a unique place on that road. Time after time, it has been a stopping point on a journey towards the constitutional democracy that we enjoy today. It is in many ways the home of liberty and democracy. By the time he'd sealed Magna Carta in June 1215, King John had already formed a special relationship with Worcester and the surrounding county. He often visited Worcester Cathedral to worship at the shrine of St Wulfstan, and his favourite hunting grounds were in nearby forests in Wyre, Feckenham and the Chase. But his relationship with the county was destined to be bittersweet. As civil war brewed and the king was forced to concede many of his powers under Magna Carta, Worcester declared for the rebellious barons. In July 1216, the king's forces recaptured the city, but the monarch's days were numbered. He died in October of that year, specifying in his will that he be entombed at Worcester Cathedral. His will and artefacts will be on display in the Cathedral Library from September 2015.
John's great tomb is surmounted by the oldest royal effigy in England. It is a masterpiece of early 13th century sculpture. It gives Worcestershire a direct link to the story of Magna Carta and to the story of liberty and democracy that is genuinely unique. Marking the 800th anniversary of Magna Carta, Worcester Cathedral is staging an exhibition from March 2015 to December 2016, accompanied by a programme of insightful lectures and talks. A special service with a peal of bells on June the 14th will mark the actual 800th anniversary of the sealing of Magna Carta, and a series of anniversary concerts will be held in the same week. A conference on King John and his connections to Worcestershire will be hosted in April 2016. In October 2016, a special production of Shakespeare's King John will be produced by the Worcester Repertory Company in the very cathedral that the infamous king is buried in.
"50 years on from Magna Carta, another of the founding fathers of British democracy arrived in Worcestershire, Simon de Montfort. The extravagant spending of the weak but vicious King Henry III and his son Prince Edward had frustrated the barons. Led by de Montfort, the 6th Earl of Leicester, they launched a civil war against the monarch in 1263. De Montfort captured the king and his son at the Battle of Lewes. He established Parliament, until then simply the King's Council, as a representative body for the first time. This is still recognised today as the template for democratic nations across the globe. With this power base, de Montfort ruled the country for a year, until August 4th, 1265. Stopping to allow King Henry to hear Mass at Evesham Abbey in the south of Worcestershire, de Montfort suddenly found himself confronted with a royal army 4 times the size of his own. Prince Edward had escaped capture and had one objective: the rescue of his father, the king. The brutal battle raged throughout the town of Evesham and ended with the bloody death of de Montfort. De Montfort was seen as the people's champion and quickly became widely respected as a hero in the tale of liberty and democracy. Among some people, he was even venerated as an unofficial saint. He was laid to rest here at Evesham Abbey, a place of pilgrimage ever since. Parts of the Evesham battlefield still exist, and the town boasts a rich heritage. The 750th anniversary of de Montfort's downfall, a central moment in the struggle for English democracy, will be commemorated with a medieval festival weekend, workshops, talks, tours, and a legacy project. Here in Worcester, the struggle for liberty and democracy took a decisive turn in the 17th century. The city played a unique role in the English civil wars, with both the first and last battles fought here. In 1642, the Battle of Powick Bridge was the first major cavalry engagement of the conflict.
bringing a victory for the Royalists. Worcester's support for the monarchy secured it a nickname that endures to this day, the Faithful City.
9 years later, the Battle of Worcester brought the Civil War to an end. By the autumn of 1651, Charles I had been executed, and Charles II's headquarters had been established here at the Commandery, just a short distance from Worcester Cathedral. His forces, mainly Scottish, were holding the city, but Cromwell's new model army and the county militia outnumbered them 2-1, and by the 3rd of September, they were closing in. The battle raged across the city that day, and the tide turned against the Royalist forces. One of the most high-profile casualties was the Duke of Hamilton, a Royalist commander who was responsible for selecting the Commandery as the King's headquarters. He had led a dramatic charge against Cromwell's forces, but his horse was killed under him, and Hamilton was shot in the leg. His men carried him back to the Commandery, but his wound became infected and he died. His dead body was temporarily buried under the floorboards of this room before being reburied in Worcester Cathedral. It was here on Fort Royal Hill that the decisive blow was struck. The parliamentarians took control of the Royalist guns and turned them on the city. Charles II's men could only retaliate by mounting one final desperate charge, the last cavalry charge on English soil, to cover the King's escape. This important battle is today commemorated by this remarkable bronze plaque by artist Kenneth Potts.
Reenactments of the events of the Battle of Worcester will be staged this year in both the Commandery and at Fort Royal Park. There will also be a programme of exhibitions, talks and a Liberty picnic at the Commandery.
Such is the importance of the Battle of Worcester in the evolution of liberty and democracy that Fort Royal Hill was visited in 1786 by the second and third Presidents of the United States of America, John Adams and Thomas Jefferson. Adams's words on that momentous day perfectly capture Worcestershire's importance in the struggle for democratic freedom.
And do Englishmen so soon forget the ground where liberty was fought for? Tell your neighbours and your children that this is holy ground, much holier than that on which your churches stand. All England should come in pilgrimage to this place once a year.
A pilgrimage to the Worcestershire of today reveals a county of exceptional beauty in the very heart of England. Its history is all around you, here for you to see and touch. Discover for yourself why Worcestershire is the home of liberty and democracy.